we go. All right, so as we start, everyone's getting so used to all these tools, but this morning we are in Zoom. If you haven't used this, one of the things we love for you to do in the summit today is, oops, scares me. Here we go. Got lots of people coming in the door. If you can, especially when we break out into breakout rooms, which we will do twice, remain or turn your camera back on. We love that. And remain available for the mic when we're in those breakout rooms, because we're going to be able to ask questions and share information with the people that are participating with us. But please, as you can, remain muted throughout until you're in those breakout sessions. So the little mute is over on the left. There we go. Over on the left is remain muted when our presenters are speaking. And on the right, you've got this chat area. Feel free to use that chat to ask questions or add comments. And when we have time for some of those questions, and we will facilitate them in as we can. So we've got a lot of awesome information to cover in 2 hours. So we want to make sure that we can share all of that with you. The agenda for the morning is that we will spend a little time with a welcome. We have 2 great guests to kick us off, some introductions in breakout rooms. We'll hear an update on the Office of Broadband Development with the state of Minnesota. Intelligent Community Framework, what is that? And some community projects that are happening. We'll learn about some successful infrastructure projects. And then this Arrowhead Intelligent Region, a grant process, and the grantees that will receive funding that are working on their projects right now. And then we'll wrap up and adjourn by 11. So to kick us off, I want to hand the mic over to and welcome Duluth Mayor Emily Larson and the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Commissioner, Mark Phillips.
Well, good morning, everybody. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you, Alyssa, so much for the work that you are doing and the work of this coalition. It's really important to our region, to the city of Duluth. And I'm excited to be here with Mark, who's doing amazing work for us as a community and as a region as well. Just yesterday, I was on a national call with a group called Heartland Forward, and it was with a coalition of people across the country who are looking at building up the capacity and economic viability through venture capital investment and keeping talent within the Midwest kind of swath. So kind of up and down the middle of the country. And we were talking about broadband with mayors in this kind of area and funders and private investors looking for opportunities to expand connection and really understanding that we have underserved areas everywhere, that a city like ours may look very served on a map, but we have many, many pockets of disconnection and lack and gap of servicing. And so really, how can we push, whether it's the infrastructure bill to ensure that when investments are made, cities are counted differently than just looking at a service area map. How can we talk about regulation of an industry that probably requires a little more public oversight at some point, since this is now becoming a public asset and value that we all need to advance our community, our home, our jobs, our education. So many things going on that we were able to talk about yesterday. And I wanted to share that with you today, because this conversation is part of what helped me root the work that we're doing and gain a little traction with funders potentially across the country who are looking to build up capacity in the Midwest. So thank you. I'm really eager to see the survey that will be coming out soon. Very grateful for the work of many people on our staff, Chris, Emily, many people here who are really tracking and paying very close attention to broadband. But for me, just at my core, the reason why this is so important to me is that I really believe we can do better. We can be better. That, if I need internet to get through, 10 minutes into my morning coffee, I've checked out 5 websites, right? To make sure I'm feeling informed and connected and engaged. I've texted with my kids or my friends to feel like I have some social connection. And I consider myself very low tech. And so I just, for me, it feels like if this is good and healthy and important for me and my kids and my family and my neighborhood, we all need that. We all deserve it. And I do feel so strongly as a country, we can be better than we are right now. So for me, ensuring that we continue to have access and expand access, and to me, that includes, digital literacy and training. It's a workforce strategy. It's a social health and connection strategy. It's an entrepreneurship expansion strategy, and it is how we keep ourselves relevant and connected. So I'm super excited that we are all meeting together today, and really thank this group for the tremendous work that you're doing. So Mark, I know that you have the bonding tour in town today, but you have a few words you can kick us off with too.
Thank you very much, Emily, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm honored to be here today representing our agency, Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation. We're a regional economic development group. And to tell you how we, I guess, confirmed how important broadband is, about 5 years ago, we did a regional strategic planning effort called Recharge the Range. And we invited over a period of months, about 600 people to participate, and they were business leaders, community leaders, leaders in the culture and tourism space, natural resource industries, and business attraction, economic development people. So we had a wide variety of leaders that looked at our region, and it was interesting. We ended up with 8 committees. We had a healthcare committee, we had a committee on business attraction, we had a natural resources committee. And the one common denominator from the report outs from all the work that these groups did from this regional strategic planning effort, the one common denominator was broadband development. And so that is what convinced our agency and our board to support us in making strategic investments in broadband. But the other quick story I'll tell you is that when the first broadband awards were done by the Border to Border Broadband Funding, they put a map up on the website, and there were no pins in the map in northeastern Minnesota. And that's when I got to be working with the Blandin Foundation and developed a long-term partnership with Blandin on broadband development. And we started with a small cohort of communities, and then we've done a couple phases of that. Now we're moving forward on this Arrowhead Intelligent Communities effort with Blandin. And all of these are leading us down a path where we're seeing more and more broadband development and funding available and everything. So I'm proud to partner with Blandin and other entities and other communities and counties and whoever we need to get this job done. It's been confirmed by every sign that we can possibly see that we need to finish this job. And we're dedicated to that. And I just want to welcome you. So this is important work you're doing today. And I appreciate everybody being on. I see there's like 110 people on now. And that's really exciting to see that kind of participation in an event like this. So thank you for having me. And I'm going to try to come back to you in a few minutes. I got to go pitch our Giants Ridge project to the legislature first, but I'll be right back. Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Emily. We're going to head back to our slides here. And the first thing that we're going to do right off the bat this morning is break out into an icebreaker rooms. We'll break out into rooms. You'll have about 5 to 6 people in your room. And the hope is that you would in your room get to have a small conversation. You're going to have just about 10 minutes, so not a long period of time, but in that time period, I'm throwing in the chat here, our hope is that you will share your name with each other, background, organization, kind of why you're here, and then just why you're interested in attending today. So we will have, let's see, 10 minutes in that breakout room to share that conversation with each other. And I'm going to be opening those up right here. Breakout rooms, here they go. And so you'll just want to click on that little button and join your breakout room. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Gotta find that little blue button to join the breakout room. It's like most folks are getting there. If you're having any trouble, let me know. If you're just joining us, just join that breakout room for introductions. If you're just joining us, just make sure you join that breakout room for some introductions. If you're just joining us, just join that breakout room to do your introductions. 20 more seconds and everyone will be back.
The importance of having connectivity. So I'm just pleased to be here and marking some progress.
All right, we are back. Hopefully everyone got to have a nice conversation and meet a few people across our region working on this work or interested in this work. Next up, I'm excited to introduce Diane Wells. She's with the Office of Broadband Development here at the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. Diane, the virtual mic is yours.
Thank you, Alyssa. Happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm trying to participate in all of the regional convenings, and so it's very interesting. For those of you that aren't familiar with our office, we are the Office of Broadband Development. We are within the Department of Employment and Economic Development. We were created in statute in 2013. I've been with the office since its inception. We're best known for the border-to-border broadband infrastructure grants. That's where our funding, in addition to staffing the office, has been placed by the legislature. They have awarded us we've pushed out $125 million to get border-to-border infrastructure out into Minnesota. The last appropriation in the 2021 session has been for 2 years. It's $70 million. It is also not funded with state general fund revenues, but from what is called the Capital Projects Fund that is included in the American Rescue Plan Act. And so we're going to be, we weren't able to open our grant round in July because it wasn't from state funding, but federal funding. And Treasury just issued guidance on Monday on how we can spend that funding. We're still digesting it. We still have a lot of questions that we need to put back to Treasury, but we will get that money out as fast as we can by opening up another round of border-to-border grant. Let's see. I did want to talk a little bit about some of the other funding that's coming down. I know that, there's a lot of emphasis on today's convening about projects that have been conducted or great ideas for implementation. And so, we have seen some communities use CARES Act funding that was appropriated by the federal government last year at the start of the pandemic, and some communities stood up broadband infrastructure grant programs to get folks connected. There are some traditional funding opportunities that you should be aware of, and there is a good resource on the NTIA's website. I'll put some of these links in the chat box after I'm done, of all of the federal funding opportunities. But we have had the historic U.S. Department of Ag Community Connect program. Minnesota has benefited from that program, I think about 5 different projects. And that is for broadband infrastructure in rural areas. And also as part of those Community Connect projects, you put in a community computing area for folks that can come in and use computers. There is the USDA Reconnect program that has had 2 rounds issued, and I think we've had 3 projects in Minnesota. And again, because it's USDA, it's focused on more rural areas. They should be opening up round 3 within the next few weeks. We've been kind of waiting for that since spring, and we keep hearing it's coming, it's coming. But that will be another opportunity to apply for broadband infrastructure funding. Many of you are familiar with the FCC's Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. They held what's called a reverse auction. And so the low bidder to deploy broadband in an area won the auction. And that was held last November, and the winners were announced in December. Those winners were required to submit long form applications. Those were due in, I think, late January. They had some additional material that had to be filed in June. And so the FCC is slowly working its way through those long form applications. And if they make the final decision to push funding to those auction winners. That will help clarify the picture a little bit about what will be constructed by who and when. And it's a big piece of some of this infrastructure funding coming down from for border to border and from the federal government as to whether or not you can use funding in some of those same areas. So FCC has issued 2 rounds of approval so far for some of the smaller providers. Some are still waiting. I think I saw Paul Bunyan is on this, and they're still waiting to find out whether or not their areas that they were the winning bidder for will be finally approved. And LTD obviously is kind of the elephant in the room. There's a lot of areas in Minnesota. They were the biggest winners nationally. So we are waiting to see if they're long form applications. So once the FCC acts on those, we'll have a lot more clarity about where funding can be. And for those of you that aren't familiar with how the FCC has done funding, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund is the replacement fund for the Connect America Fund. And that was a program that was in place for about 6 years, where Frontier and CenturyLink up in your area received funding to build out to 10 megabits down and 1 up. Last year, there was also the Consolidated Appropriations Act passed, and that was in December of 2020. And under that program, the NTIA had some programs that they were administering, the broadband expansion to underserved communities, and that was $288 million. Those applications were due August 17th. They had $2.5 billion in requests. So they were oversubscribed by almost 10 times what they have funding for. And I believe they will be making their announcements in November. The NTIA, that's the National Telecommunications and Information Administration of the US Department of Commerce. They're also conducting the tribal connectivity program. They had $980 million available to tribes to apply for broadband for infrastructure and also digital literacy and broadband adoption type programs. Those applications were due September 1st, and the tribes submitted over $5 billion in requests. So that was oversubscribed by about 5 times. So definitely the demand is there. That's great. It's showing Congress that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that passed the Senate and is pending in the House is really needed. So we're hoping to see that come to passage probably in October. The other thing that was in the Consolidated Appropriations Act that I want to mention is the FCC's Emergency Broadband Benefit. And that's a great program for eligible households. It is up to a $50 credit on your bill if you're an eligible household for broadband service. And that's $75 on tribal areas. To date, I think the FCC has been surprised that subscription to that program has been fairly low. I think people are not hearing about it, or they're not hearing about it from somebody they trust. And so they're thinking it's too good to be true. But it is actually there. And the good news is that while this is temporary funding for the time of the pandemic or until it's used up by those that subscribe, there is permanent funding pending in that Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So we're hoping to see that continue. And so if you sign up to get a discount, and this helps address that big affordability piece of the broadband barriers, is to get people connected that would otherwise maybe not be able to afford that monthly bill. In the American Rescue Plan Act, which was passed in March of 2021, we know there's been state and local fiscal recovery funds. We know some of the local governments are making funding available for broadband. We're trying to keep track of that as we hear about those programs. The state has to date decided not to use any of its state fiscal recovery funds for broadband, which is specifically called out as an allowed use. It's my understanding that there's about $1.1 billion of state fiscal recovery funds that the 2022 legislature will be determining how to spend that money. And obviously broadband's only one use. And so they may have higher priorities on how they want to spend that. And then, as I mentioned, the Capital Projects Fund, which is being used to fund the Border to Border grant program. We are tracking that closely. like I said, the guidance just came out on Monday. So it's available online at the U.S. Department of Treasury's main site if you go to state and local funding. So we're working through that and hope to open up the border-to-border program again as soon as we can. And I think that's all. So happy to answer questions. And I'll put my contact information up in the chat too.
Perfect. That was one of the questions.
Okay.
We've got time just for one or two other questions. So Diane, do you know if using those ARPA dollars for border-to-border funding is going to put more strings or metrics around it and, you know, using and awarding those dollars?
Using the capital projects fund, I think there will be some federal requirements, like you can't buy equipment made in China, I think is one of the ones that we've seen so far. But the state law gave us the flexibility to vary we have state law requirements around the border-to-border program, like you can only award a max of $5 million to a project and you can only fund up to 50%. So there are some things we may need to work around in the state law or modify that we're allowed to do under the federal program. So for one, with the NTIA programs that we saw, the tribal funding and the broadband infrastructure funding, they were paying up to 100%. So if we as a state want to drive projects to those areas that don't have anything but maybe a satellite service and or a cell phone hotspot service, our restriction in the state border-to-border laws is we can only fund up to 50%. That may not be enough to get projects for those areas because we need a shovel-ready project for an area. So we may think about if there's no match required under federal law for the capital projects funding, we may decide, well, maybe we can increase the amount the state could fund under border-to-border. So I think there's good and bad trade-offs in how we're going to be able to use that money.
Great. Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thanks.
If you're able to share your contact information, that'd be really helpful. There's a couple other questions in there we won't be able to get to right now.
Okay.
But if anyone has the information, they'll be able to share, and you did kind of answer some of them. So hopefully we're helping people out. So thank you again. And I'm going to share my screen here. And next, I am happy to introduce Bernadine Jocelyn. She's the Director of Public Policy and Engagement at the Blandin Foundation, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the Intelligent Community Forum framework.
Thank you, Alyssa. Yeah, hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here in the room with so many people from our region that care about broadband. That's really encouraging. The reason we're talking about Intelligent Community Forum framework is because Blandin Foundation and IRRR have been using this model, this heuristic, this framework for many years now in our work in communities to help them imagine and implement kind of a whole community place-based approach to broadband access and adoption. And this little illustration you see here from the Intelligent Community Forum group in New York City that developed this model shows the 6 elements or 6 pillars, I like to call it, of this framework. And it's really based on an understanding that broadband is essential infrastructure, while it emphasizes that communities' use of broadband drives economic competitiveness. So you'll see these 6 elements here with the arrow, how they all support and interact with one another. And the elements with sort of clustered up for social, cultural, and economic. So the connect pillar aspect is about the importance of improving broadband infrastructure. And sustaining is about ensuring environmental and social sustainability. The include aspect of the model talks about, is really focused on digital equity, digital inclusion. Engage is the important part about engaging the public, engaging communities in broadband access and adoption. I like to say that getting broadband to a community is 20% technology and 80% sociology, because it's all about the people, about how people think and act and what they do with the tool. Innovate is about ensuring and incenting innovation and a forward-looking use of technology. And work, of course, is that important element around building a knowledge workforce. So when we, and the projects that we're going to hear about today, many of them from the Blandin Broadband Community Effort and the Arrowhead Intelligent Region that Mark Phelps mentioned, are all sort of designed and informed through the lens of this model for intelligent community framework. So we wanted to kind of bring it to you just really quickly this morning so you'd have it in mind as you hear about the projects we're going to learn more about and maybe see these elements in them. So with that, I'm going to now introduce Anthony Landgren. Anthony's the associate planner with RDC, and he's going to tee up our speed round of Blandin Broadband community projects. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you for that introduction, Bernadine. As Bernadine said, I'm Anthony Landgren with Arrowhead Regional Development Commission. I'll be helping moderate the community project speed round. We have 5 presenters that will have 3 to 4 minutes to present on their projects that they're working on right now. We have with SBDC Tech Audits, we have Vicky and Betsy. With Workforce Talent Attraction, we have Sean. With Coach City Co-working Space, we have Jim Yunt. And with Hibbing HRA Housing Wi-Fi Project, we have Jackie. And with local libraries in the East Range, we have Sue Sowers. So I will hand it off over to Vicky and Betsy with SBDC Tech Audits.
Awesome, thank you. My name is Vicky Hagberg. I'm a business consultant with Northland Small Business Development Center, and I'm going to be co-presenting on an upcoming project and the history behind it with my colleague Betsy Olavanti as well. And so I'll kick it off talking a little bit about this tech assessment or technology assessment program, touching on the intelligent community framework methods that Bernadine mentioned earlier. I think this hits multiple methods. We're talking about innovation and work in the framework of economic development, as well as inclusion in helping people learn about technology that can help them in their small businesses and connecting them, incentivizing them to adopt some of those technologies. So this program is a partnership between Blandin, the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation, and Northland SBDC through the Arrowhead Intelligent Region initiative. And the concept is, like I mentioned, to reduce some of those barriers for businesses to adopt technology that's going to help them be more resilient. And I think this is even more important as we are working our way through the pandemic and the impacts that is going to have for our economy and our businesses long term. And so this program is going to be coming out this fall, and it kind of has 3 phases. The first phase is a small business consultant from our network that has specialized interests in technology. They are going to meet one-on-one with a small business, and they're going to help assess where the business is at currently and what kind of technology they're utilizing now. The next step then is that consultant will make some recommendations around the kinds of technology that would be helpful for the business to either grow their sales, be more efficient, attract and retain employees. The next phase is going to be implementation. So this program is going to include a grant that will allow the business to purchase equipment, software, services. It's really pretty wide open as long as it helps the business with their needs and is technology related. It's going to be an eligible expense. Then they'll go through a reimbursement process through Northland Foundation, our parent organization, and we will, hopefully get around 65 businesses in northeastern Minnesota a little boost on their technology utilization. So this is not something that we thought up. I wish I were that clever, but it's definitely not my brainchild. So Betsy is going to talk a little bit about the history of this project and kind of the smaller scale versions of it that have gone on so far.
Sure, thanks, Vicki. So my name is Betsy Olavanti. I'm a senior business consultant at the Northland SBDC. I've been involved in the blend and broadband cohort since the first Iron Range communities got involved. And one of the projects that we did during that particular cohort was to deploy this this technology assessment project that Kurt Walzak and Mark Zimmer had initiated in Grand Rapids in prior cohorts. So we sort of, you know, in the small business community, we talk a lot about borrowing what's successful and using best practices. So we borrowed what they had done and we deployed it in both the Mountain Iron Buell cohort, and then we deployed it again in the Laurentian Chamber cohort. The Laurentian Chamber cohort ended up falling directly in the middle of the pandemic for small businesses who were mainly brick and mortar. And two of the success stories are that Irma's Finland House in Virginia was able to take their entire product line, put it online, and continue operating and selling goods throughout the pandemic in a time when non-essential businesses were shut down due to executive order. And additionally, Barber Graphics in downtown Virginia did the same thing, except for she is a more made-to-order shop. So one of the things that she did was implement an online store during that time. She had been wanting to do it for a while, and this was her impetus to do it. And throughout that online store, she implemented a campaign called Iron Range Strong, where folks would purchase either a t-shirt or a cap, and $10 went to pay for the item, and $10 went to a small business, restaurant, or service business of their choice. So it was a really unique opportunity for us to deploy a program to enable businesses to be more resilient in the face of a pandemic, while helping them to pivot into online sales and things like that. So it was fabulous. It worked out really well. Now we're just going to take it and scale it throughout the entire Arrowhead Intelligent Region community.
Yeah, thanks, Betsy. And like we mentioned before, this is something we plan on launching later on this fall. It'll probably be early November before this starts to go out. And we're going to be putting out all sorts of information about the details of it. But small businesses are going to be eligible for up to $1,000 of grant funding with a 1/3 to 2/3 match situation where the business puts in 1/3. And thanks to the Arrowhead Intelligent Region grant program, we are going to be able to put reimburse another $1,000 from the grant funding. So it'll be for the entire 7 counties of northeastern Minnesota. We're really excited to be launching it, and watch our social media channels for Northland SBDC and Northland Foundation, Facebook, Instagram. Sign up for our email newsletter on the website to keep in the loop on this. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Vicki and Betsy. I'll now pass the microphone over to Sean with the state of Minnesota Workforce Talent Attraction.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. So as Anthony mentioned, my name is Sean Husky. I'm a workforce strategy consultant with the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. And I'm here sort of representing Beth Pierce and the Iron Range Tourism Bureau to talk a little bit about Hello Iron Range. So Hello Iron Range is a talent attraction and recruitment site. It's based around the Iron Range, and its purpose is to show the Iron Range as a great place to consider moving to with plenty of opportunities, and to sort of make that process of moving here easier. And I did put the link in the chat. So what is Hello Iron Range? Excuse me, I'm sorry. It features listing and maps for local realtors, childcare providers, major employers, local chambers of commerce, and local popular retailers and big box chains. Hello Iron Range has blogs and resources about what it's like to really live on the Iron Range. It's got information on recreation activities from the Iron Range Tourism Bureau. It's got links to North Forest for job opportunities on the region, links to Northland SBDC and other entrepreneur resources. And one cool thing that we're currently working on is a new initiative called Flexible Employers, which is a project in collaboration with the Laurentian Chamber, Chisholm Chamber, and Hibbing Chamber to promote companies who have shifts between 9 and 3. And this is specific for parents with school-age kids. Companies with benefits like PTO and VPTO, and also a specific category for youth employers. Companies will be listed on the site, a Hello Iron Range, and also be able to display a custom window cling indicating that they're participating in this program. And the idea behind this program is really to reach out to the population of individuals that left during the pandemic, individuals with school-age children who weren't able to find childcare, and to sort of entice them into coming back into the workforce. So that's one initiative that's tied into Hello Iron Range.
Thank you, Sean, for that information on Hello Iron Range. I'll now be passing the microphone over to Jim Yount with Coach City Coworking Space.
Hi, I'm trying to share my screen here, see if this works. Oh, never mind. I've got to tell my computer to allow that to happen. So that ain't going to happen with the minutes I have. So I wanted to talk about our co-working space here. It's a great example of the kind of benefits of having a lot of meetings like this where you hear a wide variety of ideas, because you never know which ones are going to take off. Just so happened in this case, we had a family that has owned a furniture store for generations, and they were ready to retire. Nobody was buying the furniture store, and they were just kind of wondering what they would be able to do to be able to back off a little bit in their workload. And they heard about the co-working space idea, I think from one of our Cochise Technology Initiative meetings. And 24 hours later, they were 100% bought in. They were able to do it because they own the building free and clear. They, as a furniture provider and seller and flooring specialist, they were able to remodel the place at relatively low cost. And it has been so far a great success. And the Cochise Technology Initiative was started as a Blandin broadband community. And to this project, for this iSpace co-working center, we have allocated a total of $11,400 over 4 different projects, all of which helped contribute to this project taking off. First, we sent them, the owners, to a co-working conference, which they really, really appreciated. And then our library hosted some co-working meetups at the center to bring people from the community and business owners, organization managers and such, to talk about their individual groups and kind of to introduce them to the co-working space to help spread the word. And then, of course, there was a pandemic, and we put out some of our money to allow for students to come in because our school was shut down. Many of our people in our county don't have good internet access. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. So we funded some scholarships for some of them to come in and work at the co-working space during the pandemic. And for those who participated, it was a really major boon to them. And then more recently, we started a tech club, just kind of people who are interested in technology in general. Doesn't matter what the range of interest is. We have some kids as young as 10 and some people who are, old ham radio operators and enthusiasts about that, and 3D printers and all that. It's a small group so far, but it's growing. But it has been very successful. And I would say that Blandin money was very well used in this particular case. And I would certainly encourage, they got so much out of that broadband meetup that they did. I would certainly encourage ongoing funding for spreading the word about co-working and having more meetings, seminars, and opportunities for people who are currently running a co-working space, who are interested in starting one, to get together and share ideas, because that's where so much of the magic happens. And I think we're having breakout sessions later, so I'll stop there and we can talk more later about the peculiarities of this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for all that information. I'll now be passing the microphone over to Jackie with the Hibbing HRA Housing Wi-Fi project.
Jackie, I'm sorry, no one's jumping in. You've been on mute.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Jackie Prescott, Executive Director at the HRA of Hibbing, and we are working to bridge the gap to internet access in our community. We partnered with the Hibbing Chamber of Commerce and local businesses to apply for the Broadband Community Grant, which is a partnership with the Blandin Foundation and the IRRB. Prior to this grant opportunity, we hadn't taken any action towards implementing broadband at our organization. Through this grant process, we connected with SisuLink, a local network consultant who was willing to work with us, offering design and implementation services in kind. Paul Bunyan provided a dedicated line of service and allows us to resell broadband at an affordable rate to our residents. The initial design of this project was a wireless model, but after further examination, we realized that this type of design would not provide the quality connection we need for this building that is constructed of brick and concrete. We determined that our best approach was to run cable to each apartment. We hired Tromco Electric for the install process through an RFP. During contract negotiations, they agreed to allow the HRA to purchase the supplies directly, and they would only charge labor. We are very fortunate to have local partnerships. This approach has saved us thousands of dollars. So on the next slide, you'll see in January 2021, we were able to successfully launch the program, selling 10 megabits per second down and 5 up for $25 a month with no contract requirement. Resident participants are required to sign up online for the Stripe payment platform to pay for the service. This is to ensure that the broadband expenses are not connected to their rent ledger. If the fee is not paid monthly, the service is automatically suspended until paid. Currently, almost 30% of our residents are participating. We have also set up access points allowing anyone within a 1 block area 1 megabit per second for free. We are currently working with Vapor Wi-Fi to implement the option to purchase more internet if they'd like. So we have it set up so you could have for $20, you get 1 week for up to 5 devices or 4 hours for up to 5 devices for $5. And this is community-wide, not just to our residents. Additionally, the HRA, we were able to set up infrastructure to install better quality security cameras through our dedicated connection. And we are currently in the process of expanding the broadband to all our complexes using this pilot model. We are working on grant opportunities to help implement this program that serves our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie, for all that information. I will now be passing it to our last presenter, Sue Sowers with the local libraries of Hoyt Lakes.
Good morning. My name is Sue Sowers, and I'm the library director of the Hoyt Lakes Public Library. Because we are seeing stats like by 2025, 3.5 million STEM jobs will go unfilled. And because we understood how technology and robotics can greatly influence every aspect of work, school, and home life, by having the potential to positively transform how we think and problem solve, collaborate, and have fun, we wanted to offer our community a means to try out some tools related to STEM. But being a small rural library, most of our funds typically go to the basic costs of running the library. So we were very thankful for the Blended Broadband Community Project Grant for helping us to pursue this project. So with the grant funds, we decided to create some STEM kits for all the community and all the people on the East Range to learn about apps, coding, and robotics. We bought 6 different kits that can be used in the library, or they can be checked out for a 1-week period. For the very beginner, we purchased the Code and Go robot mouse. Colby is the mouse, and he lights up, makes sounds, and features 2 speeds, along with colorful buttons to match coding cards for easy programming and sequencing. Colby teaches screen-free coding skills and allows you to build your own maze, solve STEM challenges while helping Colby find the cheese. The second kit features Botley, and that's also for beginners. Botley is a colorful robot and a remote control combination that teaches beginner coding. Botley can be programmed by entering a code on the remote and then asking Botley to run the code. Basic concepts of coding can be learned along with problem solving, creative thinking, and while playing with Botley. And he is also entirely screen-free. Our third kit introduced Ozobot Evo along with an iPod. You can go screen-free, code Evo with using markers and stickers, using different color combinations of black, blue, red, and green on white paper. And then by using those combinations, you can create roads and mazes and maps and building on your STEM skills. Or you can connect to a free app to play and explore, share, and teach the bot new tricks like follow you, music, and escape. Our fourth kit is Sphero Spectrums, and that includes a playpad and an iPod. They're app-enabled music rings that make the world your instrument by turning colors into sounds. You can connect to the app and tap on anything, your clothes, drawings, fruit, or even on the included playing pad, and it creates and mixes sounds that all play through the mobile device. So you can jam on your own with some friends anytime and anywhere you want. The Spectrum rings also provide an accessible, portable, and tactile way to discover music creation without spending money on expensive singular instruments. All skill levels can create their own masterpieces with hundreds of instruments, loops, and sounds. The fifth kit is a Sphero SPRK Plus and an iPod. Sphero is a fantastic tool to teach the basics of programming. You're not sitting at a desk and staring at a screen. You're kind of running around the room chasing this hyperactive robot using commands, kind of an entertaining way of learning how to code. You can set simple commands to roll, flip, spin, change color to create increasingly complex constructions for your Sphero robot to follow. And because it's so much fun, all the fear of coding kind of quickly goes away. The Sphero Ball is a pretty hardy tool. It has to be, because they encourage you to drop it 6 inches on the floor or make it collide with things. It also floats, which is kind of fun in the bathtub or in a swimming pool outside. And you can also just drive at the Sphero by flipping your phone horizontally or your iPad horizontally and just drive it around. Our last kit is the Lego Boost, along with an iPod, or if you want to use it in the library with an iPad. It's kind of a robot coding super kit. It's not just a Lego set with 840 pieces, but it's a robot kit, and it's more advanced than you might think. A central Bluetooth connected motorized hub with 2 separate modules can lift the arms, make the treads move, turn the robot heads. One of the modules has sensors that measure proximity and color, and the other has an additional motor. The kit can make more than one robot. It has instructions for 5 main creations and can be customized to any others. Also, everything can be programmed with block-based coding tools in a connected phone or a tablet app. We've loved hearing about all the fun the parents and grandparents have had with their kids when they take these kits home. We started sending these, allowing these to be checked out last spring, or actually in the summertime after COVID hit and we closed, and we were first allowed to offer curbside service. These were very popular with families to bring something different home, especially those teaching their children at home. It gave them something a little bit different to do. One grandma and her granddaughter tried every single kit out multiple times. So that was fun hearing about what they've learned and working on it together as a family, and they feel such a sense of accomplishment. So stop on by our library, check them out. The only limit is your imagination. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, for all that information. I will now be passing the microphone to Whitney Ridlin of IRRB. She'll be discussing successful infrastructure projects.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Whitney Ridlin. I'm fortunate to work for the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation. And one of my many hats at the agency is to work with community leaders on rural broadband expansion in Northeast Minnesota. Today, I'll take you on a quick snapshot of where we currently are with broadband infrastructure connectivity across our region, and we'll hear from some local champions and providers. So I kind of want to start out on a positive note by stating that although there's a lot of red on the map, Northeast Minnesota does have many areas of very high quality internet connectivity, especially in our higher density core communities where our cable companies tend to exist, and also where the rural cooperatives have expanded fiber networks. If you look at this map, green generally means really good service. You're considered served at the state of Minnesota speed goal. Red equals bad service. You're considered unserved at the state of Minnesota speed goal. And then purple indicates it could be worse, but you are considered underserved. So this map information, along with other information that gets down to the more granular level of your township or county, is available on the Deed Broadband website, along with just tons of other data for you. I just want to take a quick look at each county. When we look up at Cook County, they're primarily served via fiber to the home by True North Broadband, generally serving areas where the electric grid is available. There's still pockets that remain poorly served up there, and many of those are now off the grid, and those people also want to have internet, and I've received the calls. So next we'll move on to Lake County and portions of eastern St. Louis County, who were fortunate to be served by the fiber provider Zito Media, formerly Lake Connections. However, major pockets of poorly served areas remain. Sometimes this is very sporadic. The mapping information does not do Lake and eastern St. Louis County justice due to it seeming to be served because it's green, but households not being able to get the connection via Zito Media. The example would be Zito's running along the road, but the household is not able to get the driveway connection or that last mile connection made to their house. Hopefully this is improving, and we will kind of stay tuned. When we jump over to Itasca County, they're very fortunate to have very high quality fiber broadband service from Paul Bunyan Communications, although pockets still remain of unserved areas the closer you get to St. Louis County and Cooch County. Cooch County, although not in the service area, I'm still kind of familiar with, and I know that they're very fortunate to be getting some upgrades soon via Paul Bunyan Communications and some improvements from Midco. Carleton County is still pretty red down there. They've seen some incremental improvements similar to the progress you see in St. Louis County, but it still remains very red, so very unserved. So getting to St. Louis County, there's many pockets of improvement that have happened. We have the city of Cook, Morecambe Township, Morse Township, Cherry Township, and other townships are currently working really hard to try to put the funding puzzle together with potential projects along the south shore of Lake Vermilion, the Rice Lake area outside of Duluth, Worry Township, Perch Lake up in French Township, and Vulcan Township. I know township officials in all those areas who are working so very hard to provide put that funding puzzle together and provide a solution for their community. Finally, I would not be painting a full picture of Northeastern Minnesota if I did not mention the Northeast Service Co-op Middle Mile Network that provides an open access network across Northeastern Minnesota. So they're in all the counties mentioned. They primarily serve their members, who are the city halls, the town halls, the county buildings, the state buildings, healthcare providers across the region. But they also partner with over 15 other broadband providers who utilize their network in some sort of partnership capacity. They currently have a pending federal EDA grant, which will improve the internet connectivity from the 511 building down in Minneapolis up to Northeastern Minnesota. So this project will be critical in expanding bandwidth and capabilities of the Northeast Service Co-op network. And will only allow for more opportunities for all of Northeastern Minnesota. With that very high level overview, it's hard to say the problem is solved, but it can be solved incrementally, intentionally, with locally driven solutions and some state, federal, local funding partnership opportunities. It's not a simple task. So what I would like to do is introduce a few of the biggest local broadband champions that I have come across in the past few years. These local reps have become engaged, they've learned a lot, and they've taken major steps forward in moving projects forward in their townships. First, we'll hear from Bill Schuster. He's a township supervisor in French Township, or as many of you know, the Side Lake area where McCarthy Beach State Park is located. Second, we'll hear from Kip Barbaconi, who's been a community champion in moving the Cherry Township fiber to the home project forward. It is true that internet is sweeter in Cherry now, and this project would not have moved forward without Kip's boots on the ground engagement in the township. And third, we'll hear from Nick Wagnum, township clerk up in Morse Township, to talk more about their efforts with a local fixed wireless provider. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Bill Schuster from French Township.
Okay, thanks, Whitney, for that introduction. Just a brief overview of where we're at in Side Lake, or the French Township, is we're north of Hibbing, accessed by Highway 5. And one thing I want to mention is we're in the extremely forested area of the state, which makes a difference as far as wireless connection. We have about 700 full-time residents, and in the summer, the chain of lakes area swells to about 5,000 population. Our initial introduction to broadband was, like Diane Wells mentioned, from CenturyLink. Had a grant to bring one fiber optic line up Highway 5 to the community, and basically served residents who were close to the telephone terminal, because the fiber optic went up there and then traveled to homes through copper lines. And the service that's received through that is basically 10 megabits download and like 0.4 up. So that wasn't serving the community well. We partnered with a local wireless company, and we allowed them to put a tower on Town of French property And just to help service other people, they had a network of towers that basically they could bounce a signal across the lakes and then back into other residents. So we worked with that, but probably one of the biggest things that we did is we got involved with the Central Range feasibility study, and we started networking with folks that knew about this whole broadband system. Bill Coleman comes to mind, as he was real key, and Whitney and Betsy, and it was nice to get involved with other community people like Kip, so that we could share ideas, and networking was real key. Lately, we've Paul Bunyan has on the border to border grant was able to provide a service area to the west of area of our community into Itasca County, shown on the map there. But we still have underserved and unserved areas by Perch Lake and Luna Lake, and then Beatrice Lake. We're currently have a project submitted. We don't know yet if it's been accepted to provide service to the Perch Lake area with Paul Bunyan Communications. And we're working on trying to find solutions for the more remote Beatrice Lake and Luna Lake. Beatrice Lake might be a real opportunity to work with combined St. Louis and Itasca County and other partners. That my takeaway then is number one is to network, 2 is to educate, 3 is to participate, and 4 is to partner. You know, we're using we plan to use American Rescue Plan funds, and then leverage that funding with partners, and then apply for grants. So thanks for the opportunity for let me share.
Thanks, Bill. Kip, you're up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kip Barbaconi. I represent Cherry Township. And approximately 3 years ago, somehow I got involved in this project, but we all got together, and we were invited to join and participate in the Central Range feasibility study. We all met. We had big goals. We decided that go big or go home. And when we started this, I didn't know what I was getting into, but we all ended up coming on some common ground. We worked hard. We saw that there was a need for the broadband in the area, and living in Cherry, I didn't know how important it was. We met with many different townships within the areas. We attended many town meetings, county board members, county meetings. And in attending those, we invited a lot of people from the public that came, and they spoke on the need. I just remember one gentleman coming, talking about how he worked from home, having elderly people stay in their homes longer, and the need for the internet wasn't there. I mean, he just didn't get the quality internet he needed. So stories like that came true. And other places, I spoke to people when I hit the ground, talking to people within the township, telling me stories that their kids don't want to come home at Christmas time because they don't have internet. They'll spend a few hours and then they want to go back home. Others were telling me that, you know, they're teachers in the area, and when the pandemic hit, they had to travel to Hibbing to get good internet. We had a lot of good people. Blandin Foundation was, you know, really helpful in securing this. NESC, Whitney, and the IRRB, and I guess my township supervisors were so interested. I'm so glad that they decided to jump into this, and here we are today. As we speak, I may get dropped. My internet will be hooked up this afternoon at 2 o'clock, but I guess until then, we'll hope I get through this. The other thing is we put together a feasibility study. We hired a company, came in, they did the feasibility study. We were going after a whole different area to cover. We realized that we couldn't make the goal, so we focused on Cherry because they were an unserved area. We went after the federal Reconnect grant, and we invited some participants to come in to handle the project, and CTC was the one that came into, and they went ahead and secured the grant. And of course, then the pandemic hit, and there we all sat waiting and wondering. And as of today, people are being hooked up, and it's just so exciting. When we did this, I've attended all of our town board meetings since I've lived here in 20 some years. I've never seen our town hall so packed. We had possibly 100+ people attending that meeting. And there's a good example of how it shows people are really wanting and interested in this and how important it is in our lives, as we found out when the pandemic hit. So with that, we didn't have libraries and we don't have coffee shops here. So Blandin Foundation came up, we applied for a grant there, and we did get the public Wi-Fi in our town hall too. So that's another advancement we made. And I'd like to thank everybody for everything they've done to help us get to this point. And if there's anything I can do, I've spoke at other township meetings. I'd be glad to step up to the plate and jump in and help anybody who's willing to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Kip. Much appreciated you joining us today. With that, I'd like to pass it over to Nick Wognum with Morse Township to talk a little bit about the work up surrounding Ely.
Thanks, Whitney. Our project is a little bit different in that we are a fixed wireless project. So we were working initially with companies like Zito and Frontier and trying to find ways to serve a rural area around the city of Ely. Town of Morse is really 4 townships that kind of encircles the area. But Treehouse Broadband came to us with a project that we thought would work technology-wise and production-wise. It's about 350 homes that will be served 100 up and 100 down, 20 up speed. And this is an area that's hilly, rocky, tough to put in fiber lines and really tough to serve. So instead we use the Ely Water Tower. That's the area right below the Treehouse logo. That's where the signal is beamed from. It goes out to different towers along the way, all the way up to the north arm of Burnside Lake, where you see Campton Nord, and then over to Wolf Lake to the west. Some of these people in here really didn't have anything at all. I mean, they didn't even have cell service because of the geography of the area they live in. So to be able to provide them with high-speed broadband was just almost a dream that we didn't know if it could come true. But working with Isaac, the owner of Treehouse, we put together a program where the township contributed funds, Treehouse did, and IRRB funding as well. And I want to thank Whitney and the group at IRRB for kind of taking a chance on us, because I think we were something they hadn't really seen before. Well, so far, he's got a take rate of about 60%. That may be a little low at this point because he really hasn't advertised or told people. He's just hooking them up by word of mouth. And it's really going well. Basically, the homes that he doesn't provide service to, either they don't have electricity, they aren't here very often, they're long retired, or they're opposed to internet at the cabin. Oh, okay, well, those people we're probably not going to get. But of the resorts, I think there's 10 resorts and other businesses in the area. They've all been picked up by Treehouse and services been provided to them. One of the things they do that's kind of interesting, now remember, this is kind of a seasonal area, that especially the Burnside Lake, Wolf Lake area, there's a lot of seasonal people in there. How do you get them to pick up a service that maybe costs, $100 to $120 a month for that type of internet? Well, he provides a hibernated service, so you can turn it off for 6 months and pay only $25 per month. I think that's a nice option for people, and it gets them to subscribe, and maybe they wouldn't. Interestingly enough, when we initially saw this project, we pictured 100 to 200 foot towers, right, to put these repeaters on so that people could pick up service. And as you can see from the picture in the upper right corner, that tower is about 16 feet tall. That's all we really need. We're finding areas where we can get on top of hillsides. I've seen Isaac climb white pine trees and get up and put a repeater up in the high branches. He'll do anything to make it work. So we've kept the costs way down. Our budget has not even been reached yet, and we're probably at about 85% complete. So that's really good news for this project. Just a little more information. We're going to actually run some underwater fiber to provide access to areas that there isn't a clear line of sight. If you see the lines on Burnside Lake, those are usually boathouse to boathouse type connections. So that's how they do it. It comes from one boathouse and shoots to another one. And he can do that up to 4 different times. So that same signal can be repeated down the lake that way. But there are some areas that he just can't get to because of the topography. So he's going to put some fiber in underwater. It's about a 2-week permit process. And then they actually drop the fiber to the bottom of the lake, weight it down with a concrete block, and run it back up the shoreline to provide service there. So the staying below the tree line is a big part of what Isaac is trying to do. And I'll quote something he said to me here. And he said, staying below the tree line and using line of sight over the water gives us clean air and lets us reuse radio frequencies in order to provide higher bandwidth to customers. That's a different way of doing things and trying to be non-obtrusive and trying to provide a service that just isn't available in our area. So I'd like to thank the IRRB for their help in this project, and we look forward to expanding it to the east now as well and providing service to people who don't have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. You know, one thing after listening to all those community champions is the importance of a locally driven solution, right? Every solution is different based on the community, based on the density, based on the topography. And, you know, so I think that's just one major takeaway to think about as we work in our own communities on potential solutions. So next up we have, let's see, I was thinking it was Steve Howard from Paul Bunyan Communications. So Paul Bunyan owns the largest cooperatively owned all rural gigabit network in the country, or at one point it was. Paul Bunyan is based out of Bemidji, Minnesota, but recently completed a major office expansion in the Grand Rapids area. They're slowly moving further west into northeastern Minnesota. This is the guy that everybody wants to show up at their township meeting with a map and a plan to move forward. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Steve Howard from Paul Bunyan to talk about their current, pending, and future plans in northeastern Minnesota.
All right. Thanks, Whitney. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. Hope you didn't skip Randy, and if so, I hope you can come back to him. I'll talk quick because I only got a few minutes. I see we're running a little bit behind schedule. Paul Bunyan Communications is a member-owned cooperative. We are headquartered right here in northern Minnesota, and you can see the stats. We serve over 6,000 square miles and have over 30,000 data customers, as well as lots of video and telephone customers also. And we're offering internet speeds, as indicated there, up to 10 gig. We recognize that that's 10 gig is a lot, and it's just one more way of showing that we like to be a technology driver to the region, a technology leader in the region by bringing higher speeds at a reasonable cost to people. And we've been doing that for a long time. We've been an internet provider for over 25 years. It's crazy how fast that time has gone. We've also been a fiber to the prem internet provider for over 15 years, which is kind of crazy because 15 years ago, fiber to the prem was pretty much bleeding edge technology, but now it's proven to really be the way to go for the future. We, as a company, always want to be the company that goes and grows and promotes the use of technology in the region, and we don't ever want to be the provider that's a hindrance, that's just has high prices or unreasonable rules or whatever to discourage use of technology. We want to see technology used to bring growth and economic development, and we want to be part of that. We want to be the enablers of the future of technology in the region. And to that end, our most popular internet package is $60 a month, and that includes 250 megs down and 250 megs up. So we're not cobbling you like some of the other providers out there with slow upload speeds. In this work from home world, slow upload doesn't cut it. For another $20 a month, that is for a total of 80. You can get a gigabit service, and for $120 a month, you get 2 gigs. So it's a great deal, and just goes to show how we want to make technology happen and make things grow here in Minnesota. For 2021, we've got a bunch of projects going on. We are deploying fiber to the home in, I can't name them all, but Capitogama, areas south of International Falls, around Pellin and Ray. We're also doing stuff in Morecambe Township and Ash River and Elephant Lake. That was that big purple area you saw in the center of the map. That will be changing color from purple to green probably within the next few months. We're also busy in Togo and Nashwauk. So we are really busy throughout northeastern Minnesota this summer, and we hope to continue that for many summers going forward. We have, as well as many providers out there, are facing some challenges. And I just want to share those with you guys because I know that these are things that are going to affect people going forward and the things that we probably should be addressing. And first one is supply chain challenges. You know, in this post-pandemic world where nobody's working and supplies are tight, we are facing some challenges just like everyone else. And the big one is getting fiber optic cable. We ordered fiber last fall. Most of it still has not arrived. The fiber we order today, we're told to expect it first quarter 2023. So if we were to do a grant application today that requires construction by 2022 because we need a shovel-ready project, where are we getting the fiber? I mean, those are the challenges out there. And so, you know, that's a big one right now. It has us nervous. Fortunately, like I said, we ordered a lot of fiber, but most of it hasn't come in. We hope we'll get to the front of the manufacturing line soon. Second challenge we face is we see all these great projects or great programs out there to assist in the development of broadband, is that one of the challenges we face is that 50% funding restriction that Diane mentioned earlier today. You know, broadband funding these days, well, it's kind of like if maybe you heard the old saying, when you're looking for a spouse, all the good ones are taken. Well, and from a financial perspective, all the good projects, I should say all, most of the good projects have been taken that can be funded at the 50% level. I struggle to find projects that we can make a business case work for at 50%. So, you know, those are things I encourage any of you that are involved with, you know, these programs out there to see if you can change that 50% funding limit to have it recognize that, you know, the Iron Range of Minnesota is very, very expensive place to build, probably the most expensive place in the state. As Commissioner Phillips mentioned, you know, his first year there was no projects in northeastern Minnesota, and I understand because the costs are high. Rock is expensive to build it, and they don't call it the Iron Range for nothing. There's a lot of hard iron rock, and that's great for mining, not so great for installing broadband. So I encourage anybody involved in those programs to work on this. The last one I want to talk about are challenges we're facing, and this one's kind of a unique one, is RDOF, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. And you've heard that talked about earlier today. That is a program that's had a lot of great intentions, I think, and getting a lot done with not a lot of money with this reverse auction process. I think it's got a lot of potential, but unfortunately, it's shown maybe some challenges we're encountering with the implementation. Yeah, the way they design the areas that are eligible, it's a bit of a checkerboard pattern in some areas, and some of the uncertainties associated with our area is going to be funded, are the providers going to be able to deliver, cause us hesitation when we look at going into different areas. If you live in, say, a township that has a bunch of RDOF, a checkerboard of RDOF pattern in your rural township, it makes it much less attractive for a company like Albany to go in there. And it's great that you may have RDOF awarded in parts of your township, but what about the other parts? And what if the provider never delivers? Those are some of the tough things that you guys are facing, and we recognize that. But we, of course, have to do what's best for our cooperative, and serving those kind of townships, which is a lot of them in northeastern Minnesota, is a real challenge with the unknowns and uncertainties of RDOF. There you go. So hopefully I didn't talk too long. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to shoot them in the chat. I'll take a look at it here in a minute, and I'll try and answer any questions. We'll go from there. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you helping us see the challenges that you face, because I often hear those from you, but it's just great to share that with a greater audience. So next up, we have CTC. Northeast Minnesota has been fortunate to see another fiber broadband cooperative expand and operate in our region. CTC is based out of the Brainerd Lakes area, but has been a quiet partner in the broadband scene for quite some time in northeastern Minnesota, operating a partnership with True North Broadband up in Cook County, managing the Lake Connections project during the transition from the county to Zito, and solidifying a footprint on the Iron Range when they received the Reconnect grant to build out Cherry Township. And they actually provide over 100 business connections across the Iron Range. So today we have Kelly Burns with CTC to talk a bit more about the work they're doing in northeastern Minnesota.
Hi, thank you. Today I'll be speaking about a couple of the Iron Range projects we're currently working on and what we have planned in the future. I want to thank Kip for discussing the process initially on the Cherry Township project that we're working on. Not only is he a broadband champion for Cherry Township, he's become a friend to myself and so many others here at CTC, and we are just so thankful to have him on this, in the community and on the project. As he mentioned, we worked we began working with Cherry Township on this project a few years ago. There's a dire need for broadband, and we are excited to work with the community and try to put things in place. Just prior to COVID, CTC was awarded the Reconnect grant to complete the project. And what's unique about it is the project was leveraged through a 2010 RUS BIP middle mile network to reduce overall construction costs by over $500,000, demonstrating the strengths of multiple cooperative working together to serve underserved areas. The project includes connecting 659 establishments in portions of Cherry and Great Scott Township on the Iron Range. And CTC will provide gigabit of symmetrical internet via fiber to the premises to this rural and unserved area. We've had a ton of success with the project, and we're excited to say that construction is nearing completion, with some residents already having been connected with services. KIP is on the docket for today, and we have many more to come in the upcoming weeks. So far, the feedback from the community has been exceptional. Everyone in Cherry Township has been fantastic to work with, and they've really attributed to the success of this project. If you can go to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about Ely. CTC installed a state-of-the-art fiber network in Ely's downtown area, which will bring affordable, reliable, high-speed broadband service to businesses and residential locations. The project began a few years ago when the city, Ely Economic Development Authority, and the citizens group, Ely Area Broadband Coalition, Ely ABC, joined together to address broadband issues. In 2016, Ely was one of 6 communities to receive a $25,000 Blanding Communities Program grant. The group of Ely partners utilized the grant to develop a feasibility study, which served as a resource to improve local connectivity going forward. This in turn eventually led to CTC partnering with the city of Ely, and IRRB supported the project with a community infrastructure grant. CTC customers in Ely now have access to high-speed fiber internet and custom packages, including managed Wi-Fi, voice solutions, and other business services. Community partnerships driven by a common goal of solutions can achieve really great outcomes, and we're so excited to be working with the city of Ely. In the future, overall, we really enjoy working with local units of government who can help finance a project. This allows CTC to use those revenues from the project to repay that local government. So it's a good model to work from. We're nearing completion on service installations to Cherry Township residents. Many have already received our broadband in a box self-install kits and are already enjoying services. We have a number of those going out in the next couple weeks and hope to wrap that up soon. We're also looking forward to expanding in the northeast portion of the state and other underserved areas. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your company's work in northeastern Minnesota. So next up, we have Jason Hollanday from Fond du Lac to talk about their fiber to the home network. They've leveraged the Northeast Service Co-op middle mile, and they've been at this since 2012. So if you are just getting started, do not get discouraged. Keep in mind that broadband projects take time.
Yeah, that's the biggest. I'm Jason Hollanday. I'm the Fond du Lac Reservation Planning Director. As Whitney said, we've been at this for quite some time. We really, we had actually had initial discussions back in like 2006, 2007, and then due to some of the other reasons, we kind of restarted ourselves back in 2012, and really kind of started hitting this thing really hard. Back around that time, around 2012, we started, meeting as staff, how do we accomplish this? So we kind of thought, how do we actually do this? So we kind of started working, sort of community-based meetings. We had staff, our previous IT director, Fred Underwood, was on the governor's broadband task force. Then our tribal leadership was meeting with USDA on different opportunities that were out there. And then the planning division itself, we're going to, traveling around the country, seeing different granting agencies, just seeing what was out there, what could we do? And then around that time, the Blandin Foundation started up their Blandin Broadband Community process, and we applied and we were able to get a grant to have a few things happen. We had computer classes. We established a Wi-Fi network as sort of a precursor to the overall fiber network that we're going to build out. And then we had an app development cap for our students at the school one summer, and they got to keep the iPads once they finished. And then, so we kind of started establishing some partners. And one of the first partners we had was Northeast Service Cooperative. We were included in their project in 2009 for the middle mile. And so that connected all of our, excuse me, all of our community centers, all of our government buildings. And, they kind of helped us, get some, through the 2010 Broadband Initiative Program, doing some, helping us with some grant writing. And then in 2015, we worked with them to write 2 grants to the USDA Community Connect program. And unfortunately, those 2 grants were not funded. So we weren't like really in a, starting over or anything like that again. But, we just kind of kept reevaluating what we wanted to do. And so, throughout time, we used our Blandin Broadband Community program. We did PCs for People. We had free community classes. We had iPads in the classroom, app camps. We established 13 different hotspots on Fond du Lac and all of our government community buildings, and to give people a taste on what basically an unserved community would have if they could have, some internet connectivity. Then we had a number of community outreach meetings. And so then we reapplied for our USDA grants again in 2016, and they were approved. We had 2 Community Connect grants. They're $3 million a piece. We had just over $2 million in match funds going into those. And then we actually had to figure out, what do we do next? So that's what we did. We just kind of kept writing grants and started developing our project. We had 2 USDA grants in 2016. We applied for a 3rd grant in 2017, which we did get. And then in 2018, we applied to Housing and Urban Development and Border to Border to get additional fundings for our project. So our overall project for the Fond du Lac Reservation is around $12.5 million, around $9 million in grants, and about $3.5 million in our local cash match that came from Fond du Lac Reservation itself. And our overall project, it's we're looking at trying to connect. There's over 1,000 homes that were ready, going to be ready for connections. We have around 600 signed up right now. We have our website up and running. Most of our network is up and running. We're still building out parts of it. There are 2 sections more towards the Big Lake corridor of Fond du Lac Reservation that's being built out as we speak. And then, our network, it's up to a gig, depending what service level that you want. It's all fiber to the home. And it's synchronous. It's, 1 gig. If you get the 1 gig service, it's 1 gig up, 1 gig down. We have multiple service levels. It does include telephone. We don't have a video option quite yet. And then, throughout this entire process, we were able to establish ourselves as our own ETC. We became a telephone company, so we could offer the Universal Service Fund to our low income residents on the Fond du Lac Reservation. And this is open to everyone on Fond du Lac Reservation. It's not just Fond du Lac band members or descendants. It's it's everyone that lives on the reservation. So there's quite a few people that are very interested in this. And we're also serving as our own ISP. That's one decision we decided to make because Fond du Lac Reservation, it's a sovereign nation, so we thought it's the best way to express our sovereignty is to be able to provide the service to people at a reasonable price and have our own control of it. But, that's sort of a quick summary of our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to hear an update. I've been watching you from the sidelines and super supportive of your efforts over there. So next up, we have Randy Long from Boys Fort to talk about their upcoming fiber to the home network project.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Randy Long. I'm the IT director with the Boys Fort Tribal Government, and we're currently underway of doing our fiber to the home project. We were successful in obtaining a Minnesota border to border grant and some local funding through the IRRB and the Shakopee Metawakan, and also contributed to this project. Now, as Steve Howard mentioned earlier, we are having difficulty pulling in some supplies, but we're hopeful by early next year to actually start getting the fiber in the ground and completing this project by early fall. Boys Fort has an interest of going beyond the reservation boundaries right now, so we recently applied for an NTIA grant, which will hopefully cover the entire Lake Vermilion region, City of Orr, and Highway 23 out to Net Lake. This encompasses a majority of the area between the multiple sectors of the reservation. And one of the reasons why we wanted to target these areas is it's in support of the local high school, the Grizzlies High School, which is part of 2142. If we can get these areas covered, I think the longevity and the successfulness of this entire region is going to go up for sure. So that being said, that's about it, guys.
Thank you, Randy. Very excited for your project and the potential expansion of your project in rural northeastern Minnesota. So finally, we have Adam Fulton and Emily Nygren from the city of Duluth to talk about their plans for broadband. I know on the Iron Range, we still have gaps in our core communities, especially when it comes to the high bandwidth users, as does Duluth. The future internet capacity needs are only growing, and the city is here to talk about their pending plans to improve infrastructure and access.
Thanks, Whitney. My name is Emily Nygren. I'm an economic developer with the city of Duluth, and it's been so exciting to hear more about where communities have been at with their broadband initiatives. So thank you to Blandon and the partners for bringing us together. I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail. Mayor Larson already shared, we are undergoing a feasibility study. Like many of the communities have mentioned, that was kind of their first step in their planning stages, and a community process to identify where are the options for implementing some broadband infrastructure in Duluth and using the resources that the city has allocated $1 million of our ARP funding for. As Whitney mentioned and showed in the map, most of Duluth is considered served or green. However, we do have significant gaps in purple areas. And also we know that, we recognize that this data and information is provided by the ISP providers in Duluth, as well as it doesn't share the whole story of what access means from an affordability level, from an equity level, and of course from kind of like the last mile that many have talked about getting to the home. So this is a newer initiative for us, although it's been a long-term priority for the city. As part of a 2020-35 comprehensive plan as a policy recommendation that the city of Duluth ensure high-speed broadband is available citywide. And really that's been a focus, of course, after the pandemic and through our partnerships with, for example, the Duluth Digital Inclusion Initiative, and happy to talk about that more as well. So one of the unique challenges for the city of Duluth is that we are 27 miles long. And so what that means is, while I've mentioned that significant portions are considered served in green. Several of our more vulnerable neighborhoods, as well as our manufacturing areas, are purple or red. And so, we have significant affordability issues, as I mentioned. About 20% of Duluthians do not have internet access, so that's about 17,000 individuals. And 15% of the folks who do only have internet access via their phone, which, of course, as we know, that severely limits options for things like remote working and other ways to interact with online community. So, where we are right now, the city created an internal broadband working group earlier this year, and what this group has done is explored over 20 communities that are like communities to Duluth to examine different broadband models, and then we ended up contracting with Entry Point as a consultant to do this feasibility study and create a broadband master plan. The feasibility study is including a community survey and engagement process, which we're hoping to launch this early October. And what that's going to look like is really get more into that data of where the gaps in service are, what truly is affordable for our region, and examine through a market analysis, how do we bring competition to better serve our community. And we're looking at November as having that broadband master plan up and running. And some other ways that this plan will come back to the community and weigh our options for implementing that 1 million in ARP funds. We're looking at, comparing some of the options that were mentioned, some really creative initiatives that have gone on in northeastern Minnesota so far. So comparing the options for what does fiber look like in Duluth and how does that compare to DSL cable and other wireless options. Also examining how our partnerships can be stronger using some of the models, for example, that Jackie mentioned from Hibbing, working with HRA locally or other initiatives to make sure that we are encompassing the full spectrum of what internet access means for Duluth, including from the equity perspective. So I just wanted to share, we're releasing a survey in October, and we're also looking to engage partners in a community process beyond, the survey and really target and gather information from individuals across Duluth. And so if you have a community process that you felt that went really well, I would love to hear from you and get to know your process better and maybe one of the working groups. So I'll put my information in the chat, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Emily. To wrap it up, some of the takeaways are that learning is important. There's a lot of technical information with broadband. It's important to understand your community desires. It's important to build your relationships with your potential provider. We just have to remember those broadband barriers are the very reason why we choose to live here, and we need to take those challenges head on so our households and our businesses and our region stay relevant and competitive in a global economy.
Sorry about that, everyone. My internet glitched. No big surprise. So next up, happy to introduce Bernadine back to the table and hand over that mic for our next group of breakouts, which is very exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much. I agree with Billy Esham's comment that, boy, there's a lot of really exciting infrastructure projects going on in the region. Thanks for all those terrific presentations. I'm going to tee up here a quick two rounds of AIR and Arrowhead Intelligent Region grantee spotlights. And we're going to hear from some of the new projects underway on the ground as part of the partnership that Mark Phillips referenced at the top of our meeting between Blandin and IRRR and Northland Foundation to use that Intelligent Community Forum model, looking at all of those elements of what makes an intelligent community with inclusive broadband access possible. And we're going to have 2 rounds, and you'll be able to choose what small group you go into. And I'm just going to do a quick intro here to your options. So the Iron Range Tourism Bureau, Sean Herhusky from the Workforce Strategy, who's a workforce strategy consultant with DEED, is going to talk about IRBT's casual co-working space and jelly events in Virginia. So you can go there to hear more about what a jelly event looks like. Kirsty McPherson, who's a behavioral economist and project coordinator with the Itasca Economic Development Corporation, is going to lead a session on Launch Minnesota Innovate 218 You can hear how our region is helping to promote innovation and support entrepreneurs as part of Minnesota's statewide collaboration called Launch Minnesota. Then also we have Anna Broadus, the founder of Minnesota Children's Press and author, who's going to be talking about her Mapping Litter and Publishing project in Grand Marais, an outdoors GIS-based approach to teaching, spatial thinking, environmental stewardship, writing, and publishing. Our fourth option for you to choose from is with Amber Lewis, who's a Lead for Minnesota Fellow working in our region. Welcome to our region, Amber, with Northspan. She's going to be talking about Northspan's Welcoming Community Program, where they're working on fostering, welcoming, and increasing digital access across our whole region. And last but not least, 100 Rural Women founder Teresa Kittredge is here this morning. And in her room, you'll learn about 100 Rural Women's efforts to identify and define cooperative and collaborative publishing business models. So you're going to get a chance now to, and there'll be 2 rounds, so you can pick which one you want to go to. And Alyssa's going to help us find our rooms. So glad you guys have a chance to hear more about these new projects that are just getting underway in our area as part of trying to bring this intelligent, this holistic place-based broadband access and adoption model across the region.
Awesome. Thank you, Bernadine. Because of my glitch, I'm going to keep this up on the screen so you can see that if you choose room 1, you're going to go with Sean and learn about Iron Range Tourism Bureau's efforts. 2 with Kirsty at Innovate 218, 3 with Anne at Minnesota Children's Press, 4 with Northeast the Welcoming Community Program with Amber, and 5 with 100 Rural Women. So I'm opening those rooms now, and you get to choose if you want to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Here we go. Yep, just choose your room. You just click on the link and go right to it.
I am not seeing the breakout room options.
You might have to click on your Zoom to it so that it's the first thing on your screen. If you've got multiple things open, there should be a little list that says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm looking at my Zoom screen. I don't see the list.
I
Looks
also
like Misty McPherson has the same problem.
same problem here.
You know what? I'm going to quit and rejoin. I wanted to activate screen sharing anyway.
Okay.
I'm seeing the breakout rooms down at the bottom of my screen. I think that's where the links are.
Yeah,
there's a section called breakout rooms. I see that now. Thank you.
Yeah, I have that, but when you click on it, it doesn't let me actually click on anything. Just like let me open and see who's in the room.
Kirsty, I'm just going to put you in your room. Hang on.
Yeah, thanks.
They're just moving really fast because everyone else is getting in there. Oh, I can't get it fast enough. Give me just a second here. 2. There we go. There you go. Now you should be able to get in there.
This is Chris. I'm trying to get into Zoom to room 3, but it's not letting me get in there.
You should be able to get in there. Chris, let me see if I can put you in there.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
This is Myrna Peterson. I can't get into room 4 either.
Room 4. There you go.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a room they want to get into? I can help out.
For anyone still having problems picking their own room, I figured it out for myself, clicking on the breakout rooms icon on the bottom with next to the record and reaction buttons, then picking the room that I want, looking at it, and then if you point at the number of people in it in blue to the right of the name of the room, it changes to say join. That worked for me. I don't know if anyone else has a different glitch going on. Well, it's not a glitch, it's just learning curve for me. Anyway, good luck. I'm going to hop into room 1.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so anyone else that's trying to figure that out, you could go to the breakout room portion on the bottom bar of your Zoom as well. It'll pop up all the rooms and you'll see that there's a bunch of people in there with a little blue number on the far right. If you hover that blue number, you'll be able to click join.
I'd like to go to room 4, please. I'm having trouble.
All right, Pat, send you in.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to get into a room? All right, looks like we got everybody back. And so we're gonna do it one more time. I know I have people had a little trouble getting there at first. So if you want to go back to that same one and continue to have conversation, or if you want to learn about one of the other ones, we're opening all those rooms again. Oh, hang on. Shoot, you have to give me 60 seconds. But that same process will come back up again. See if I can It's just, if you join, it's gonna close and bring us all back. Sorry about that. A little bit of a glitch there. 30 more seconds and we'll be able to get back in. And so for those who couldn't get the button to work, what worked for some is in the bottom of your Zoom where you can see, like, click on the chat and stuff. You can click on break rooms there, or breakout rooms, and it'll pop up and you'll see all the different rooms. And where the little number is on the right side, say there's 10 people or 6 people in there. If you hover over that, you can click join. That'll get you into that room even faster. Especially if it didn't work for you in that first round. So just give us here 5 seconds and I'll be able to pop that back up, recreating it. All right, open all those rooms. Everyone is unassigned, so you get to choose your next adventure. And we'll have about 5 more minutes.
Could you get me into number 5 this time? It's Myrna. Yeah, my thumb doesn't work that fast.
Okay.
I'd like to try 5 also, please.
You guys will just have to wait a minute because it moves really fast when everyone's getting in there. So I can't do it till it's done.
Okay.
There we go. Slowing down. Myrna, you wanted to get where? 4? 5. Myrna, what room did you want to get in?
She said 5.
Okay. And then that was Pat wanted 5 as well. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to get into a room? Need a little help?
The selection isn't coming up for me. No join buttons.
Therese, which one do you want to get into? And I will help you get there.
How about 3?
All right, here you go.
Hi, Sue Droback. Could you put me in 5, please?
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we have everybody back. Hopefully there are some fun learning experiences in there. And I am here to welcome Ida Rukavina. She is the Executive Director of the Range Association of Municipalities and Schools, otherwise known as RAMS, to help us wrap up and adjourn.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ida, as Alyssa said. Thank you. I hope that all of you enjoyed today's presentation. It was really exciting to hear about some of the projects going on. As the Executive Director of RAMS, we have an interest in broadband access. So we represent townships, cities, and schools across the Taconite Assistance area, and broadband is one of the things that we've been really working on, because obviously we all know that students need it, workers need it, seniors need it, people need it for telemedicine access. And this is about rural development. It's about economic development and education. And so today's meeting was one of just 8 regional gatherings that are happening across the state in September and October. And it's all leading up to Blend-In Broadband's statewide gathering that's going to be held virtually on October 12th and 14th. And so although I've been to these in the past and we were in person, I will miss seeing, having that in-person event. I think it's going to be a great 3 days filled with lots of information, lots of learning tools. And I know Alyssa is going to be putting that statewide conference link in the chat. So we hope that you all will register and come back and learn more and share more at that presentation. I also want to thank our co-hosts for this regional event, Northspan, Northland Foundation, the IRRB, ARDC, and the Blend-In Foundation. I want to thank all the presenters today. It was really informative. You all did a great job, and as well as all the participants for joining today. And hopefully you've been inspired and you can learn something that you can put to use. And also in the chat box, we are going to have a survey, a participant survey. So we ask that you fill that out so we can see what we could improve upon. And we're also going to share all of our responses, and the things that we learned today will be shared at that statewide conference. So we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you all for joining today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.